Hi guys, and welcome back to Full House Sports. And right before I get into the video, please like and subscribe to the channel. Anything you guys do is much appreciated. A link to the Instagram as well is in the bio. Our website is coming very soon, so please help yourselves to stay on the ball by giving us a follow. Right, I did my Canelo Crawford preview, and then I thought, I didn't even talk about the undercard, because when I talked about Crocker Donovan the other day, obviously I knew that Dychko was fighting Ishmael Davis on the undercard, and I thought, I knew Christian Mbili, Lester Martinez was happening on it, but this is a real sort of, and it's nitpicking because what Turki Al-Sheik's done when he's come into boxing is tremendous. You know, he's getting fights on that we all wanted to see, but they don't promote the undercards. They really don't. I think back to some of the other cards, and we don't really see the undercard fights being promoted, or we see them at least being under-promoted. I think Matchroom are no doubt the best at doing this. I've said this for a while now, that Matchroom are really good at making sure the chief support is a really solid fight. Whenever they put on a big card, the chief support is also a big fight, and they'll give it the build-up it deserves. You know, I remember Dillian White, Derek Chisora the first time. That was on the undercard of AJ Eric Molina. There was also, I remember Eubank Jr. fought Gary Spike O'Sullivan. They gave that the build-up. I think they did a gloves are off for that one. Even recently, you look at what they've been doing with guys like Cameron Vuong and Jordan Flynn, where they've been giving that the face-off. Ishmael Davis, Kevin Adjiyako is a prime example. They've had them two in a room together. They've had them two trash talking. It's all out on their socials. It's been given the build-up it deserves. And I don't want to sound like I'm slating Riyadh season, because what they've done for boxing and what Turki Al-Sheikh has done in getting these fights on is fantastic. I just wish he'd promote them slightly better, because there's some great fights on the undercard. You've got Christian Mbili versus Lester Martinez. The super middleweight division, yes, it's probably not what it was 5-10 years ago, where you had guys like, you know, Caleb Plant's still around, but Caleb Plant and his pomp, James DeGale, George Groves, the Durrell brothers, guys like that. There's not those guys there. Cal Froch, of course. But what there is there's a real sort of bubbling of contenders. I don't want to sound like I'm negative towards Canelo, but he sort of put the division on hold a little bit with his sort of being allowed to do what he wants, to be honest, by the gun buddies, which is understandable. He's earned that right. But it's meant that there's been a real sort of development of some contenders, and now hopefully we're going to see these guys start fighting each other, start with Mbili, Lester Martinez. Because, of course, you've got those two. You've also got Osley Iglesias, you've got Callum Simpson from Britain, you've got Diego Pacheco, you've got Hamza Shiraz now stepping up, Edgar Belanga's still around. You've got all these guys, and they've sort of been waiting for their shot at Canelo. Hopefully now they're going to realise, well, one of two things are going to happen. Either Canelo loses and the belts get scattered, or they're going to start fighting each other. So, really look forward to that one. Mbili's guy I've watched a fair bit of. I watched him against Rowan Murdoch. I can't remember what undercard that was, but I watched him in that fight, and he was destructive in that fight. He was relentless, and everything he throws, sometimes to his detriment, but everything he throws feels like it's loaded up. It's thrown with bad intentions. And I also watched his fight against Serhii Derevyanchenko. Now, Derevyanchenko is a guy that's sharing with some of the best middleweights around. I know he was going up in weight and he's not getting any younger, but Mbili beat him pretty comprehensively. Yes, Derevyanchenko looked like he had an injury. I think he was boxing basically with one arm through the fight. And actually that got Mbili a fair bit of criticism because he didn't put Derevyanchenko away. But he's a guy on the up. He destroyed Maciej Sulecki as well in one round in his most recent fight. I've got to confess, I haven't seen a lot of Lester Martinez, so I wouldn't be able to say too much about him. But I am fully on board with the Mbili hype train. And I hope that this win if he wins on Saturday, sorry, I shouldn't say this win, if he wins on Saturday, and this fight can help to propel him above to what he is at the minute. I feel like he's still going a lot under the radar. I hope this propels him into the bigger fight picture, because there's some really good fights to be made in that division between those young guys. And talking of young guys, you've also got one of the Sumi brothers fighting. They're Riyadh season ambassadors. I think they're either signed to Riyadh season or they're ambassadors with Turki Al-Sheikh. I think he's probably looked at them, both him, I think it's Reito who's fighting on Saturday night, and his brother Hayato, who we saw knock out Kaiz Ashfaq on the Itama White undercard. They're both guys, they're relentless. I think probably Turki Al-Sheikh's looked at them and gone, that's the next Naoya Inoue. I'm not going to label them that personally, but there's no doubt they are entertaining to watch. Reito is the one who fights. He's in the featherweight division. on Saturday. You would expect him to come through that. I think they're guys that they're going to push on, and they're going to push on fast, because they look like they need that. If not, they'll end up stalling. And I think Turki Al-Ashik's a guy as well who wants to make tough, challenging fights. He wants to make 50-50 fights. Another fight on the undercard that really interested me was I might butcher this, Ivan Dychko versus Jermaine Franklin. Franklin's a guy who we know quite well in this country. Obviously, he went the distance with Anthony Joshua. He also went the distance with Dillian Whyte in a fight which I thought he had a strong, solid case to say he won. Dychko's a contender that, in what is a stacked heavyweight division, it feels like isn't really getting the coverage. And there's a few guys on this undercard that are in that boat. But certainly in the heavyweight division, he's undefeated. But he's never really in the frame. You don't hear anyone call him out. You don't hear him ever really getting on cards like this either. So Saturday night's a real opportunity for him. Like I say, Franklin's a guy well known, certainly to British eyes, for being tough, for being durable. If Ivan Dychko can get him out of there and get him out of there in impressive style, he all of a sudden puts himself in that heavyweight picture. It's sort of a theme, I think, of the undercard, is it's guys that are prospects sort of under the radar, and it's giving them the coming out party, which is why I'm a bit gutted they haven't been given the promotion that I feel like they deserve. You know, yes, they can rely on their box ability, but as well, tell us the stories behind these guys. Tell us why we should be looking out for these guys. But one guy whose story last day on the undercard doesn't really need telling, or certainly his father doesn't need telling, is Fernando Vargas Jr., who is taking on Ireland's Callum Walsh. Callum Walsh's career is a bit of a strange one, really. It's a career that I feel like I've followed but not followed. He's obviously infamous because he's signed to Dana White. I think he's one of Zuffa Boxing's only boxers actually signed to them. You know, when Dana White launched a few years ago, he signed with them. Obviously, he's Irish as well, so it feels like he should be a massive name in this part of the world, but he's not huge in that aspect. And he's a guy who I feel like whenever he fights, I always see it the morning after. He's not really given the promotion. It's like, oh, Callum Walsh fought. He's a serious prospect. He really is. And Vargas Jr., we all know what his dad was like. His dad would never say die. You only have to look at his fights, Fernando Vargas Sr.'s fights with guys like Trinidad and De La Hoya, to know he will never say die. He's got a lot of Mexican fans in there because of Canelo, so they're going to want him to win. So he's not going to go down easy. I expect Callum Walsh to win, and I hope he does win, because I hope this can sort of be his moment and he can seize it. It looks like Dana White's going to be more involved in boxing, so you would hope that for Callum Walsh, this is his chance to really lay a claim and start looking at the world title picture, because if he can get the Irish fan base behind as well, which, let's not forget, Dana White did with Conor McGregor, then he's got a real chance of finding himself in some big fights probably next year. He's a fantastic prospect, and he's entertaining to watch as well. And I think that could be a fight that steals the show. But like I say, I just wish they'd promote these undercard fights a little bit more. I just feel like they just need a little bit more. I know Canelo Crawford's what's selling it, but I'd love to hear some of these guys' stories on why these fights are important. You wouldn't know Fernando Vargas' son's fighting on the card unless you saw the name. You wouldn't know it. It's frustrating as a boxing fan, but like I say, they're new to Riyadh season. What they've done in such a short space of time is commendable. Hopefully, as they start moving through the sport, we'll start seeing more of it. But like I say, let us know what you guys think. Thank you.